And a very good afternoon, good morning, good evening. I'm not quite sure what it is. I'm Andy Greenberg, and this
I'm
is.
Carol Greenberg.
And once again, we are so pleased to present you with a topic of extreme interest. You're going to learn things, once again, that you never knew. You're going to be happy you know it, and you are just going to be overwhelmed, but not really, with the simple things in life that, in fact, sometimes seem hard to fathom and hard to believe. Now, Carol, do you have any idea what I'm talking
I
about?
have not a clue.
Once again, a disclaimer.
Not
Carol
a clue.
has
I'm so curious to see what we're doing.
Carol
but
has
not
ap-
a clue.
Carol has absolutely no idea what we're going to be talking about because she, as you know by now, is going to act like you for the very first time. So here we go.
Here we go.
Carol, you look fantastic today.
Thank you, Andy.
I mean, really good. Now, what made you pick out that blouse?
I felt I was in a color mood. I was in a turquoise color mood, and I wanted to be a little cool, so I have like what they call a cold shoulder.
I
And
see.
then I thought I'd put on my matching earrings.
And you did very well. Now, let me ask you this question. Back in the, let's say, 1600s,
Yes.
would you be wearing anything like that?
I don't think so.
What-
I think I'd be covered up from head to toe because I think women have to be very modest.
Is that what you think?
I think that.
Now, what would you have worn way back in the beginning of time?
Nothing.
Nothing. Yeah,
Nothing.
nothing. So
maybe a little patch of something, grass, maybe, I don't know.
that's exactly right. So what are we going to be talking about today? The history of women's fashions.
Wow.
And
that sounds very cool.
Yep, and well, now the way you're dressed now, but not the way women used to be dressed. So let's go back a little bit into time, and we are going to have some pictures to show you, and you could make up your mind. Now, by the way, men, if you're beginning to think to yourself, wait a minute, this is not for me. I've got other things to do. What do I care about women's fashion? Well, of course you care about women's fashions.
And why is that?
Because you see women every day.
Yes, you do.
And you have been around for many, many, many years. So some of the fashion trends that we're going to be talking about, you actually experienced. So, and I'm not talking about the 1700s, don't worry. So don't go away. You'll be glad you'll know this because, by the way, you can sound like an expert when you're having lunch or breakfast or dinner or whatever. So this is something that each and every one of us really want to be involved with. All right, let's go back to the beginning of time. So you had the cave people. What did the cave people wear?
Maybe animal skins?
Yeah, exactly right. Now, by the way, do we still wear animal skins?
We actually do.
Yeah, what do we wear?
We wear leather, we wear alligator, we wear a bunch of stuff. Cow, yeah.
Yeah, what about wool?
We wear wool from the sheep. Yeah, we wear that, but I'm talking about, yeah, they probably did it themselves. Killed the animal, ate the animal, and used their skin to wear clothing.
Pretty much, except with sheep, you can just shear the sheep
Right.
and then it comes off and then you do whatever you do.
Yeah,
Now,
well, you have to wove it. You don't do whatever you do.
Mhm.
You end up with the wool that has to be converted into whatever.
yeah, and was it custom designed?
I don't think so.
No. And let me ask you this question. Based on everything that we might know, in the beginning of time, when they were using animal skins, were there different fashions for different parts of the world? Or do you think everybody wore a fig leaf in the beginning?
No, I think there were different things based on the weather and stuff like that.
Okay. And so the weather was different. So maybe the designer styles really started many, many years ago.
Based on what the need was.
Based on what the need was.
Right.
Well, what about the fashion style? What kind of a fashion do you think people back in the old days would try to project? Would they try to be haute couture, if I pronounced that right? Would they try to be modern? Would they try to be narrow? Would they try to be sexy? What do you think?
They were trying to be Victorian.
Victorian, back in the old days of the cave people?
The cave people?
Yeah.
No, the cave people were like
Practical. So that drives one of our first questions, and that is, in your opinion, is it better to be practical or fashionable?
You can be both.
Explain.
You can be both. You can have a fashionable thing that actually serves function. You can be both. It can be both.
So when you're fashion,
so you can. I'll give you an example.
Please do.
Like boots.
Uh-huh.
You know, if you want to be, you could have a pair of flat, high boots that are fashionable, but also functional because they allow you to walk correctly.
Yeah, but this time I don't necessarily want to talk about shoes. We might do that some other time. But more dresses and stuff. What do you think?
think you can be fashionable. I still think you can be fashionable and functional.
Okay, now let me ask this question. If you can be functional, but you decide to be fashionable, are you doing so to be practical or to show off?
Well, everybody likes to be in the now, so fashion is like, okay, if this is what's popular, let me put it on and maybe I'll be popular.
So it is trying to keep up with the Joneses or Smiths or whatever.
And I wonder why we got the Joneses.
We're going to talk about that some other time, but not today. But on the other hand, let me ask you this question, Carol. So we want to keep up with the fashion. Who starts the fashion?
The people who buy the clothes.
No.
Who starts the fashion?
Yes.
The people who supply the clothes. The people who want to market the clothes and give other people to buy it. They're the ones that say, "This is okay. Everybody's gonna wear pink this October."
So, but in other words, what you're saying is the fashion designers.
The fashion designers.
And is it really the people that run around and say, "I want this and I want that"? It is.
The fashion designers design the clothing.
Yes.
It's the buyers that go to a show and say, "I like this, I like that. I'm gonna buy that."
It is forced
based on what the designer designed.
It is forced upon us.
Forced upon us.
So let's go back a little bit in time to see when it was forced upon us and how we did it. So I'm going to try and do something here and show some pictures. And Carol, please tell me whether or not you would in fact be seen in something like this. And bear with me a moment because I don't have it on. And here we go. Would you like to look like that back in 1784?
Okay, the only thing that I love about it is that waistline is so little. I don't think I've ever had a waistline like that. But I imagine it might be very comfortable because in order to get those big puffy things, they're wearing hoops underneath them. And I don't even know how you can sit down with that. So
now,
I like the hat.
Where would you wear that? Would you wear it to work? Where would you wear it?
To a ball, a tea, a very fancy party.
Now, notice how they do not accentuate the breast.
Well, actually, you're wrong.
No, right here, right there, in the one for 1784.
It's covered up with a little shrug, and there's either a chicken or a
poodle. I think it's a poodle.
Okay.
A little poodle guy. All right. So then what happened in 1785? They began
they're starting to get a little sexy.
And accentuate the breast.
Right.
Now, who do you think did that? Man or woman? Did the man say?
I think the man did it.
Do you really think so?
Yes.
I'm going to suggest that you might be incorrect on that one.
A woman did that?
Yeah.
Oh, we'll do that to attract a man.
Exactly correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, did it work?
Did it work?
Yeah.
Okay.
So let me tell you who these people were, just to show you that what it was about. In 1720, these actually started with the Queen's dressmaker, and her name was Francois Leclerc. Don't worry, I'm not going to bother anybody with all these names, but she became a very sought after from the French aristocracy, and she's the one that started many of these trends. And so did another individual, excuse me, Rose Burton. So, you were incorrect. Okay. Most of these, by the way, came from France. Now, listen to this.
France was the height.
Was the height. Why was France the height? Listen to this. An outsider in the French court. There was a gal there was a person, Marie Antoinette.
Oh, I know her. Let them eat cake.
Was that what she's famous for? I didn't know that.
So.
Okay.
I think so.
Now, she relied on this one lady, Bertin, a meticulous design to help her combat her enemies with style. And that's where all this came from. And then we can go on, but I want to show you some of the trends that began to really occur. So here we go. Here we have 1786. Now, notice it might have been hot in those days, because
the skirt is not as puffy as the other one was, but that waistline is like an ice cream cone. That waistline looks like an ice cream cone.
Exactly right.
Oh my God.
So I have a question. I could not find anything for the woman who doesn't have a figure like that.
Well, wait, the reason they have that is because they're wearing a corset that is being pulled and everything and tucked under, kind of like the spandex of today.
Wow.
They're wearing a corset.
Now, I wonder how long it took them to do the hair.
I have no idea.
Or the hat. Look at
I
those
don't know.
hats.
The ringlets and everything. I
Yeah.
don't
And
know.
by the way, did you notice the gloves?
Yeah, I do. And
Yep.
they're all wearing gloves. Right.
Yep. And the fashion continued. Now, look what happened here.
Now you're starting to go with the backside.
Yeah, you go with the
bustle,
backside,
The bustle.
the bustle. And if you notice in 1786, they did not reveal as much of
Right.
the breast line because,
Right.
as you
And
said,
now it seems like it's a little bit high neck too, but
Yeah.
now they're paying attention to the backside.
now, do you notice something about the women's hair?
Yes, they're getting longer.
They're getting longer. Now, do they have the bob style or the styles that we're familiar
It's
with
just
today?
getting longer
You
with-
see anybody in pigtails? No.
It's ringlet.
It's
Curl.
it's what?
Ringlet.
Now, by the way, did they have hair dryers in those days?
I have no clue.
How did they? I don't think they had electricity.
Well, I think they wrapped their hair in material like you would have a foam curler and you slept on it. When you woke up the next morning, you pulled everything out and you had ringlets.
So let me ask you something here. If somebody said to the woman, "Hey, let's go out for dinner," how long do you think it would take them to get dressed?
I have no clue, but probably a long time.
Probably a long time. Well, what do you say we continue?
Oh,
1788.
now we're getting more streamlined.
Yeah, yeah.
And we're getting a little bit more fancy. And now we have like almost like 3-tone striking hat with the lapel.
Yep.
And oh wow.
So let me show you the brilliance of fashion. Let's assume right now we're in 1788.
Right.
And you bought a dress back in 1784, just 4 years earlier. Would you be wearing the 1784 dress in 1788?
No.
No,
No.
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 You'd be forced to do what?
Wear that dress.
Wear that
Was
dress.
in style.
Yes, wear that dress that was in style. And the hat and everything changed. So every year you had to go out and get new what? New fashions and new clothing.
Well,
Go ahead.
I don't know that you actually had to go out. I think that you had to pick out the material, and I think they were made tailored for your body.
Everything custom made.
they were.
Oh, like a tailor
Especially
for a
in
man.
France, Right.
Interesting. Now,
Yeah.
man, let me ask you this question because I said I'm going to get you involved between 1784 and 1788. How would you like your woman to have been dressed up to go out on the town or even shopping at Publix? Which way would you have liked to have?
What would you pick?
No,
Ian?
what are
Oh,
you
yeah,
asking
Andy,
me
what
these
would you
questions? All right, Carol, which one do you think I
No,
would have picked?
no,
Yeah.
the question's on you.
No,
Which
no,
one do you like?
If
No,
you know me so
no,
well,
no,
yeah.
no,
If
no.
you know me so
I
well,
think you're gonna pick 1787.
you say 1787. You know
Yeah.
what? You happen to be correct.
I know.
S- And I'm not just saying that for the sake of saying she's
I know,
right,
I know
and-
that's where you like.
but she's absolutely right.
Okay.
Now, let's
Ooh.
jump ahead, and I'm going to show some other pictures too. 1963.
Looks like an airline stewardess.
Yeah, but what else do you see the difference between 1963 and 1784?
The hemline is short.
Oh, yes, the hemline is
The
shorter.
hemline is above the knee.
And what happened to the hats?
There's no hat.
Yep.
It's like a beehive here. There are no hats here.
Yep.
And there's a purse, and it looks like an airline stewardess.
And what else? What else, in fact, do you see different there? You're
There's
absolutely.
No gloves.
There's no gloves. We see arms, right?
Yeah, we see arms.
And what other accessory is this lady wearing in 1963 that they were not wearing in the previous times?
A purse.
Did you say that earlier?
Yeah.
Then I'm sorry. Yes, a purse. And then let's move on to 1964. I just want to show you the trends.
1965.
64. Look at that. Now, what do you see different here that has never been done before?
A pattern dress.
No.
What?
It's blatantly obvious.
I don't see it.
Sleeveless.
Sleeveless.
None of these styles, right, showed the sleeve.
Right.
And now you've got the sleeve.
Yes.
Interesting, right?
So now you have sort of like this little girl look.
Yeah. In
Like a
1964?
uniform in 1 year, like a uniform. looking.
Did you buy into that? I don't necessarily buy into that. Do you?
I don't know.
All right, let's take a look at 1965. What does 1965 look like? By the way, notice what has not happened yet. You notice something that hasn't happened yet in these dresses.
Well, this is going up and up.
Yep.
This one.
Yeah.
Is almost,
Oh,
this
yeah.
One is the mini. This is almost like a
Oh,
mini
yeah,
skirt.
the mini skirt and the higher hemline in 1965. How many of us remember that? And how daring were you in 1965? Were you willing to show your knees. Of course, you hid your sleeves, and that to me looks like Barbie doll. But then in no, no, but then in 1966, what did they try and reveal in
Oh,
1966?
they showed some more skin.
They showed some more skin,
but not, but teasing skin.
teasing skin.
Yes.
Yes, and in 1967, psychedelic.
It was psychedelic with a very loose thing. It wasn't. It was still a mini, but with a very loose fitting.
Yep. And by the way, you notice something else in
Her hairs are
1966?
getting longer.
Hairs are getting longer, and she's got a bracelet.
Yeah. Well,
All right. It's 1967, the psychedelic.
right.
Wasn't that the year of psychedelic stuff? And
Right.
1968, get rid of that. 1968, we have.
Pattern stocking
Mhm.
and an A-line shift.
Yep.
And she's wearing, and I don't know if she's wearing earrings. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, she is. Yep, she's wearing earrings.
Okay. So,
And there, of course, you have the pantsuit in
yes, but
1970.
in 1969, you have what they call the baby doll look.
Oh, you know your stuff. She
Yes,
did
and
not
then you
rehearse
have
for
the,
this.
Like the pantsuit, the Nehru suit, or something like that.
Yep, the pantsuit became very popular, and I think it was, and I'm not going to talk politics, I think it became extremely popular with Hillary Clinton and others. So that's a bit of that, how that happened. But let's go back a little bit in time and go back to some of these. We saw these, but now we're going to go, I can't get rid of that. There we go. And now we're going to really show some other progressions. Whoa, look at 1789. That is certainly different, but very fancy. And 1890. Carol, do you notice something else about all these women aside from their bust line and aside from their waist? At least to me. Anybody see what I see?
What do you see?
They're all tall.
They're all what?
Tall.
They are tall.
Yeah. What happened if a person is not all that tall? And what occurs then? And look at
But
just
look at this one. I don't know what year is that.
this
That
one here is
doesn't look like-
1791.
but that one actually doesn't show the clinch waist.
Mm-hmm.
That one is very
Yeah.
and very flowing soft material.
But there's something else.
Actually, that looks almost like a pilgrim.
But there's something else that you want to notice here, which I just did. 1789 to 1890.
Doesn't
That's
look-
100-year difference, right?
Right.
Did
Not
the
that much-
style change over the 100 years?
Not much.
Not much.
Not much.
Not much at all.
Right.
And look at it. Now, let me ask you this question, Carol. If you own these dresses and you wore them, would you wear it more than once? And number two, how would you clean them?
Have no clue. Would I wear it? I would have to. You would have to. You don't. I don't think you had that kind of money to spend on all these dresses.
Yeah, isn't it interesting? And I don't know how much each one of these costs. By the way, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, but I just want to get this ready. These are all custom made.
Yes, I know. Like,
And if you remember, there was a major change in fashion during our lifetime from custom made to
factory,
also known as
mass produced,
ready to wear.
ready to wear.
You remember that expression? It was a big expression coming up, ready to wear. All right, 1792, 1793, 94, 95. You can see the progressions. And let's move on. 1796. All these fashions are different. Ooh, look at 1800. Look at that plunging breast line.
Mhm.
And I think probably that might have been the very first time for cleavage.
And I don't think she's wearing a hat.
You're right, because I don't think anybody would focus on the hat. At least the men wouldn't. Now, notice too, she's got a little dangling thing
Yeah,
around her neck.
A medallion, a long necklace medallion.
All right, so here's the question, Carol. You don't have to answer this, and maybe you want to answer it out there. So you notice in 1800, between 1799, the plunging neckline. Would you be one of the first to wear that plunging neckline?
I
when
would,
it
because I like them. I like the fact that it's a very streamlined dress. It doesn't have all this flowing material. It's just great. I would.
Knowing that, now, by the way, they didn't, and pardon my expression, if I've got it wrong, I got it wrong. I don't think in those days they had what we now call today push-up bras. I don't know, but whatever. So you would wear that dress.
I would.
Wow.
I
Okay.
actually like it better than all the other ones.
Interesting. How about you? Would you be one of the first to wear back in the
I
day
like that
a
because I told you it
plunging
doesn't have a
neckline?
lot of material.
Okay, let's take a look. 1801, 1802, Getaway, 1803. Now we have accessories starting to come in.
Like a
See,
scarf and a
1802
bandana, yeah.
and 1903. All right. You know, I do have a whole history of this stuff, but now, of course, we're getting frilly. 1804, 1805. See the differences now? We got away from the big fancy stuff. We got away from the really hard to do. And I think it's, what do you think of this fashion? Ladies, what do you think? Carol, what
I
do you
don't
think?
like it, and all of them are really accentuating the breast area, even by just
Oh, good
doing-
catch. Good catch.
even with the color change over here. I mean, the dresses are now streamlined. They don't have as much material on
Mhm.
it, which I like, but they're still focused on that, and they all have fancy little crazy hats and everything like that. And
Right.
they're all long, so it's interesting. You're focusing on the breast, but and you covered up all the way down.
Right.
Some of them you don't even see shoes.
That's right. But you notice something else. Now they're not accentuating the waistline. You don't
Right,
have to have
right,
a
right,
pencil
right.
thin waistline, which is why earlier I said, you remember what happens if someone doesn't have a waistline? And by the way, if you didn't have the type of waistline, you remember what a lot of people used to wear back in those days to squeeze in? The corset. Yes, I don't have any pictures of that, obviously, but the corset. All right. You know, you have these expressions. I'm focusing on other things.
Right.
All right. 1809, 1808. Now she's getting party. 1810, the flappers. 1811. The whole thing has been changing and different. I'll go a little bit over the history in just a few minutes. Now
This 1812 looks like Little Bo Peep and her sheep. Same thing with this. These are horrible.
Oh my, wow, fashion critic we have here.
Ugh.
And in 1813, though, do you think
They're all horrible.
do you think they try to go back
I
to
don't know,
back to
but
the
yeah.
1700s?
Get rid of them. They're gone.
You don't like 1815 either? No. Oh, look at that adorable
No.
1818.
1819 is still, but look at the waistline. It looks like.
Oh yeah, yeah. In 1819, they brought back the waistline, and let's take a look, of course, at the big bag.
Mink bag.
Mink bags. Everybody wore the hats. Oh my gosh, look at that. All right, here we go. And I'm just going to run through some of these because I want to go. No. Not much change there. Let's see where the big change. Oh, they went. Look at what happened here. Whoa, 1828, 1829, 1830.
Too much fluff.
Oh my, get rid of the fluff, huh?
Too much fluff.
Too much fluff. We're just gonna. Oh. Let's see what happened here. What do you think of these?
We're showing the neck now.
Yes.
Not necessarily. We're showing the neck.
Mm-hmm.
We're showing the shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's okay. All right. And
here we go.
well, we're gonna skip. Here we go. 1860. Look how these people wore.
Goodness.
By the way, if you watch the old TV shows and the westerns, a lot of the Western gals actually wore this stuff. So we're not making this stuff up. And this stuff is really, really, really happened. All right, let's move through the now we got toward now we're getting interesting. Well, now the train in 1877. And here now look at that fancy 1878. Would you have worn?
No, it looks like drapery.
Would you have worn anything like that whatsoever?
No, it looks like drapery. Looks like curtains.
All right, let's see. Whoa, here we go.
So we're back to the bustle again.
We're back to the bustle. They're trying to bring it all back. Retro. By the way, in fashion today, is there a trend to go back to the old time?
Trend every year. They bring back something retro.
Why?
So they can make money.
Oh.
Because after a while, you have to recycle your ideas because you've run out of it.
All right, let's see if I can move up quickly to the 1900s, and we made it. I don't know. Do you see much of a change?
No, I don't. Still a lot of long dresses.
Yeah.
Chopped waisted. Although this has become very, very sleek looking. A couple of 1909 and 1910. Still sleek waisted, but very, very, very elongated. All long.
But take a look at 1912 for a moment.
Yeah.
Do you see? And of course, at 1913, do you see a difference maybe in the material that was being used?
Yeah, but they all seem very sheer. Yeah, they do. They're very sheer. You're right. They're very like organza.
Yep.
Very sheer.
And by the way, I'm going to hit the 1920s in a moment, which is why I wanted to speed up a little bit. But look what's happening here in 1915. Here we go. Wow, we're starting to get a little bit more casual. Would you agree with that?
I would.
not as fancy. And of course, we have the tennis.
1917, we have the gingham, which is still around today.
Wow.
The gingham thing. And we have the flapper kind of style
Mhm.
with the tennis, like the
Mhm.
real thing.
Yep.
There's the gingham again, like a sailor type thing.
Yep. And do you know who's responsible for these 1920, 1921 fashions?
Who is?
A gal by the name of Coco
Chanel.
Chanel. Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. 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 Back in the 1920s, after the First World War, a radical change, as you can tell, came about in fashion. Bouffant coiffures gave way to short bobs. If you notice the hair, the short bobs.
Nice.
Dresses with long trains gave away to what?
Shorter.
Shorter hemlines.
Still covering the knees, but exposing part of the
Yep.
leg.
And the flapper style became very popular among younger women. So right after the war, see what happened before the war, and right after the war, fashion looks like it made some significant changes. And it was Coco Chanel that was doing that. Men, by the way, there was a change in fashion of more of informality among Americans, but I don't have any pictures of that. And let's see how it continued on in the 1922s. Totally different.
1924 is definitely a flapper style.
Yep.
As well as 1925.
So, Carol, up to this point, what would you rather have been seen in what we saw in the beginning in the early 1700s and 1800s, or the 1922, 23?
The 1900s so far.
The 1900s.
Like anything before that.
Well, and of these 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, which one would you have liked?
All right, Andy, go ahead and pick it.
Oh.
Okay.
My woman is going to ask me this question. Wow. I know the answer.
Okay.
1925. Yeah. You know why I picked 1925?
The color.
The color, what else?
The fan.
Not necessarily.
And the scarf on the head.
I wasn't even going to say that.
Everything is matching. What?
I thought you'd go. The bands on the arm.
The whole thing, I like the whole outfit called to me.
You want me to see if I can find it? You can wear it retro?
No, thank you.
I'm just asking,
Okay.
So I don't know, how you enjoying this so far? Are we learning something? Is it fun?
It's very interesting.
Okay.
The fashion through the ages.
Now.
We don't really think about it. We
So-
just say, oh, I remember when they wore this.
So let's play a guessing game.
All
It
right.
seems things have changed from century to century, which I think we pointed out earlier. So the question becomes, what do you think happened in the 1930s? What kind of fashion do you think? Just take a guess. I don't know. Again, this is totally unrehearsed.
I don't know. Maybe they started getting a little bit more casual.
Let's see what happened in the 1930s. What do you think? Let's move up to the 1930s.
No, they sort of getting more conservative in a way.
Yeah, I would say. And
Okay.
1936, a lot more businesslike. Would
Oh,
you agree
wow.
with that?
And the gingham is back. And yeah, I'm not crazy about these. But
All right. But I tell you what, it's easier to clean. It's easier to get dressed. It's easier to go out for an evening.
But look at how skinny you are.
I know that. I was going to point that out. You're absolutely correct. That's what happened. And there are some people that suggest that they made fashion like this to make some people look like statues. If you take a look at 1936, some of these, and it was made to look like statues. And now, whoa, look at this. What happened here?
We're getting a little more cheeker.
We're getting a little bit more cheeker.
I
Whoa.
like some of these things.
So was there anything that was happening to women in the 1940s in terms of political aspirations?
I think they were starting to go to work.
Yeah, the women were starting to go to work. And I think there was the women's suffragette movement that was beginning to go. And I think women no longer wanted to be on display.
Right.
So would you agree or disagree that a lot of the fashions from the 1700s and the 1800s reflect the times, but were the women put on display by their men?
They
Yep.
were.
And when you take a look at 39, 40, 41, 42, etc., is that a woman on display or an independent woman?
That's an independent woman.
Yep, that is an independent woman. And what happened was many fashion houses closed during the occupation of Paris during World War II, including Maison Chanel, and several designers began to come to New York. So what you're seeing here is a lot of New York style instead of Parisian style. Now, do you also notice one other interesting
They all
comparison?
have pleat.
They all have pleats, all right. And what else do you notice between the 1940s and the older ones? It's very difficult
Well,
to
they're
pick it
coming
up.
back with the hat.
All right, the hats,
They're
good.
coming
What
back
else?
with the hat. They have the pleat. They have the purses. They have the glove. Some of them have a glove. I don't know.
All right,
what she-
all right. But let me ask you this question: how much more material were they using in the 17th?
Less.
Less.
Less material here.
And they're using less material because material became a shortage during the war. So the New York fashion designers had to do what? Design clothing with less material. So the material could be used for army uniforms, etc., etc. So that had a direct impact on women's fashions. All right, Carol, let's see. Between 1939 and 1946, here we go again. Which one? Come on. Which one do you like better? Take your time.
Okay, I've settled on something.
Uh-oh, she settled on something. Uh-oh, let's see. Well, by the way, folks, you can play along also. Which one do you think Carol would have selected? And of course, pick out the one that you might think you would have selected. All right. Yeah, this is a hard one. I'm going to go with 1945. Yeah. Yeah. Woohoo.
2 for 2.
Why 1945?
I like the shoes.
I knew
like
that.
The,
I knew
like
it.
The,
I knew
I
it.
like the streamline of the dress. I like the V-neck. I like the color.
Yeah, but look what she has on her arms again.
She has some bracelets.
She has some bracelets. There seems to be a
Yeah,
trend.
but I like the kind of shoes. Those are my shoes.
I know. That's why. That's
Okay.
exactly why I picked that one. And by the way, Vera Maxwell, you know the name of the fashion designer, Vera Maxwell? She was also responsible for some of these designs that began. And it became a little bit more sportswear. And guess what? Some of this, believe it or not, you could find on the racks because in the 1940s, ready to wear began to really blossom and flourish. Ay, what a shanda. Oh my God, you're buying a dress off the rack. You're not having it custom made. You're going into a department store. You're not getting tailored and you got to try on this stuff. What a change in the world is unbelievable. But it continues. Here we go, 1947 through 1954.
Starting to get a little bit more very feminine now.
A lot more feminine.
A lot more feminine.
And what you're seeing there are designs by a fellow by the name of Balagiski, if I pronounce that right, and Da Vinci, and a fellow by the name of Pierre Balmain. And throughout the 1950s, although it would be for the last time, women around the world continued to submit to the trends of the Parisian haute couture. And I think you can see a little bit of that in a mixture between New York styling and the Parisian. And that was back in 1954. Now, I think we all remember 1954, one of the famous TV shows, Leave It to Beaver. And if you remember when Ward Cleaver,
thing looked like that,
right? When the father, talking too fast and too much. When the father came home, Ward Billingsley, his wife was wearing probably
and
1954.
She was cleaning in the vacuum with her pearls on. Maybe she had an apron on, but she always had a dress on like that.
I think 1953 might have one. But here we go. This was the way women dressed when their husbands came home. Carol, what do you think about that? Meshuggah. Yes, and that was long before sportswear, I think, finally came out.
Yeah, because they're not wearing pants. They only wore pants once before. Go
Yeah.
ahead, move on.
Move on. Okay. You don't like these. And now, the revolutionary 1962s and 1955. Look what happened there. By the way, how many of us remember the 1960s? They say if you can remember it, then you weren't there or something like that. Okay, what about the 1960s? What do you think happened then?
I think they were short and colorful and
yep.
Yeah.
And by the way, do you notice, except for one of them, you notice back in here, there were some fashions with hats. And what happened in the 1950s, 1960s, except for one. Yep.
for one. So we'll get-
1958 had the very last hat. And the 60s, for the first time, saw a wide assortment of popular hairstyles, including bobs, the page boy cut, and beehives. So if you notice here, especially in 1962, between 1961, now you were around 1960 and 1950s, and you are, let me ask you this question. And I got that from that movie. I got to stop doing the one about the dogs. Let me ask you this question. So, you know the one I'm talking about, the dog show one? So when a woman dresses, is her hairstyle patterned against her fashion, or her fashion patterned against her hairstyle, or neither?
Neither.
Neither? You all agree, ladies?
Well, no.
Ah.
The exception is if you're going out, if you're getting dressed for an evening function and you're wearing something fancy, you might tailor your hairstyle to match the clothes you're wearing. Like maybe you'll put it up in a French knot to make stuff look good. But you get a haircut because you like that style, and then you just pick out. You get a haircut because you like that style.
So to me, when I look at these, Carol, 1958 reminds me of Lucille Ball. To me, that's a Lucille Ball dress, okay?
Maybe.
And 1962 reminds me of Jackie Onassis. I don't know if you agree with me or not. So, Carol, we haven't done this for two of them. Let's see how we're going to do. I'm 2 for 2. Which one would you have preferred from 1955 to 1962?
I've already made up my mind.
I bet you have. The answer is 1961.
No, it's 1962. I'm so sorry.
No, you don't know what you're talking about.
I do know what I'm talking about.
No, you
I
don't.
just picked 1962.
No.
Don't argue with
No,
me.
I'm going to argue with you. You like things with flowers.
Yes, but I like
No,
this green line
no,
dress.
she
I know
does-
what I like.
no.
Okay,
Look,
move on.
if I took you to the store today,
I
you
picked this
no,
dress.
you wouldn't. There's no way you would.
Let's go.
No, you
Move
go
on.
with flowers.
I'm
Everything,
not getting that
everything
dress.
you
I don't
pick up
like
is
it.
flowers.
I don't like it.
She doesn't know what she's talking about, ladies and gentlemen. I have shopped with her for many, many, many years. She's just doing that to be controversial.
Let's move on.
I don't know. I'm
so
telling
sorry
you.
you lost.
All right. Whoa, what's
Well,
going
oh,
on
we're
here?
back. We've seen this one.
Well, we've seen
we've
some of
seen-
them. Yep.
No, we've saw them all.
We saw them all. Okay.
Okay.
So that's what we've got on some of the fashions. Now I'm going to go back live and the whole thing has been live. And so what do you think so far?
I think it was a very exciting tour, but I'm sorry about that last one because
No, because
I'm
you're
getting-
wrong.
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely wrong. So let's go back a little bit. I don't have some pictures of this, but let's go back to the 1970s. What were the 70s known as?
The hippies.
The hippies. Also the Me decade.
Oh, the me decade.
The Me decade. And there in the Me decade, did you please others or did you please yourself?
You please yourself.
You became independent. You did whatever you want. Can a man point out what he wants to see you dressed in? No. No, you dressed with what you wanted. So here's what happened in the 1970s. According to some saw it as the end of good taste. Yeah. The decade began with a continuation of the hippie look with kaftans, Indian scarves, floral printed tunics, jeans remained frayed, and bell bottoms. And now it's time for me to reveal something to you. Carol and I have known each other for a long time. And in case you don't know me well enough by now, I tend to be on the conservative side. I don't want to be outlandish or anything else along those lines. Carol, on the other hand, as you can tell, she likes to be outlandish. So we were dating.
That's a word for me, outlandish?
No, you don't. Yeah, you do. You like to be. You don't want to be part of the crowd. You want to be.
No.
That's outlandish. So that's the right word.
I don't think so, but that's okay.
Just like the printed dress was with
Yeah,
the
right.
flowers. It is. So anyway, where was I? Yes. So bell bottoms were coming into fashion for both men and women. Okay. So a lot of the guys who were younger, 16, 17 years old, what were they wearing? Bell bottoms. Between the two of us on the screen, which one of us would not wear bell bottoms? Me. That's right. And this one was very upset with me. And she did what? She broke up with me because I refused to wear bell bottoms.
Because
I wanted.
anybody that is not progressive is not going to move forth.
I didn't want to make a fashion statement. I'm an independent person. Why do I want to go with the trend? And for someone who's independent, now that I think about it, I'm surprised you wanted to go with the trend.
Look good.
Yeah, it looked good. Yeah, the boots and the bells and the who dresses like that? Anyway, guess who finally went out and bought some bell bottoms? And what did I do when I got the bell bottoms? I called her up, and then what? We met, and she gave me a great big hug, and when she made up with me, all because I wouldn't wear them. But listen to this: in the 1970s, there were other styles that became very, very popular. And those were having to do with the hemline, began dropping in 1974 to below the knee. And then what happened, shoulder lines would drop and fashions became dominated after 1975 by the disco look. And that was certainly outlandish in those days. So in addition to that, in London, they had another type of a style, and that was called the punk style. Now, many of us were around in 1970 at a younger time. We were. Would we have worn punk clothing? Did you wear any punk?
I wore grunge sometimes.
Grunge, yeah, from Seattle. That was a trend coming from Seattle. And of course, in those days, this is what punk was. Punk was a ripped t-shirt, Native American hairstyles, Doc Martens, bondage trousers. Remember those guys that used to walk around with chains and all that stuff? Yep. And the punks exported an overall feeling of disgust around the world. And then, of course, we had the 1980s and the 1990s, and of course, the years 2000. So let's ask this question. Is what you wear a description or a preview of what your personality is? Or do you wear what society tells you to wear? Or do you become independent, and is fashion fashion as important as apparently this is beginning to say? What do you think, Carol?
What you wear is an indication of your personality. It's what you like, and unfortunately, sometimes you only have what they put out in the market for you to choose from. For instance, there's many things out in the market today which I think are awful, but you look for things that define your personality and your taste. And people get familiar with some of the same articles of clothing, or they like the style or the way it fits them, so they tend to buy the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, and if I was going to talk about men's fashions, and I don't think men's fashions have changed as much as the women's fashions. Yes, in the old days, they wore different type of suits and jackets and the whole 9 yards. And then, of course, for a while, men and ladies, you might remember, they were the Nehru jackets, which she made me buy and wear. I remember those days. Andy, you got to go out and get a Nehru. I don't want a Nehru jacket. I haven't been to India. I don't know this guy. But no, he was named after a guy. You laugh and you know it's true. And then who ended up with several Nehru jacket suits? Me. And then, of course, you had to have the turtleneck with it. And then you had to have the shoes with it. Oh, my God, she dresses me, but I love her anyway. And then, of course, there was a double-breasted suit, which, by the way, I still have one, and I wear for fancy occasions. So menswear has changed. But one thing about men's fashions has not changed. And she always says men's fashions in this particular part never changes. And what am I talking about?
The tights?
Men's shoes.
Men's shoes.
Yep, we don't have it. So let me ask you something, Carol. Again, I got to change that expression. Back in moving forward to 2030. 2030. What fashion do you think will happen in 2030? I don't know, because I don't know what's left. What else can they create?
I think it could be space oriented.
Oh,
space oriented.
I never thought of that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Things for the space.
So we should prepare for the UFO visitors and wear what they wear?
Not necessarily, but it would be space looking clothing.
So what was that?
Very functional, very sleek, having different uses, maybe pockets for things, and like you said, beam me up, Scotty, something like that. You know,
interesting.
Maybe your accessories will be plug-ins or whatever.
Very interesting. What ideas do you have about what the 2030s will look like? Let me go back to something else. If they went retro, would you go back to retro back in the 1700s?
For the 1700?
No, no.
No. That's not retro. No.
All right. Let me ask you another question. Would you wear younger clothing that people are wearing today in the 20s and 30-year-olds?
Not necessarily.
So you'd wear so-called senior fashions?
No,
No.
not senior fashions. It's just tape. I mean, you know, everyone's wearing, the young ones are wearing ripped jeans. I wear ripped jeans when I go to teach a painting class because it's already ripped. I can take the paint, my hand, and wipe my paint on it. But would I actually go out and wear them all the time? I don't think so.
And Carol, do you feel you're in fashion today? Are you a fashionable person?
Yes, I like fashion.
Yes. And one more thing. I know, or maybe more than one. Many of us have gone on cruises, and God willing, maybe some of us will have the opportunity to do it again. And of course, they have dress up night, formal night. Now, I haven't asked a question yet. So, on formal night, is that the right thing to do on a cruise, or should everybody just be casual?
You know what? It actually is a nice thing because it breaks the monotony of being casual and it makes people dressed up and appreciate one another and have a dinner where you're actually dressed up instead of a torn shirt and a pair of shorts and flip-flops.
See, thank you. I have a theory about fashion.
You does?
I do. Now, many of us have seen pictures, and we might have even been in those pictures, of baseball games filled with fans in the 1950s. And the women were dressed up in their Sunday best. Remember that expression, that your Sunday best? Yep. Do we do that today? Nope. And the men and the women went to the baseball games in hats. Imagine sitting behind somebody who had a hat on, but they all did.
Imagine sweating to death in a hot day.
And a tie and a jacket. Well, now, of course, you wear barely nothing. And as you know, many, many years ago, they started with Casual Friday, which is now Casual Monday through Friday. And when you worked in an office, you wore a suit or a sports coat. The women were very nicely business-like dressed. And today, anything goes, etc. In your opinion, are we better off with casual Monday through Fridays, or are we better off with formal business attire? What do you think?
I think that we are better off with casual.
Well, I noticed you didn't say that very loudly. You're not
We're
quite
better
sure.
We're better off with casual.
Why?
Because it costs a lot of money for people to go out and buy professional clothing. Casual, it doesn't mean their productivity is going to go down because they're wearing casual clothing. No.
Not true. It does go down.
No.
Yep. You see, here's the point. When you dress informally, what do you feel?
Relax.
Yes. When you dress formally, what do you feel?
Stiff.
When you go on a cruise ship,
not good.
when you go on a cruise ship and it's formal night, how do you feel?
Like you had to get dressed up. They forced me to do this. I don't have a choice.
But you just said it's good. It's a good thing to do.
It could be.
How does it make you feel? Informal and relaxed?
I can't. After I've gone to the dinner, I'm going to get into my casual clothing.
No, I got that.
Okay.
But here's the point. As you guys know, whenever I come, I always have a tie and jacket on.
Always.
I never, ever make a presentation anywhere
Never.
on casual. Why? I like to look professional. And I like to have my tie on. Maybe it's the one thread, pun intended.
No pun intended.
No, I said pun intended. Maybe it's the one thread that connects me to the days of professionalism. Because if you ask me, a lot of those women that we saw in the pictures, they looked professional, they felt professional, they acted professional. And yes, am I making a statement that if you go to work in jeans or shorts, you don't look professional? Yep, that's exactly what I'm saying. And you tend to respond and react to the way you're dressed. Would you agree with that? So,
yes, possibly. Yeah.
How about you? Would you agree with that? So let's do this. I think it was a very fashionable time that we spent together. I know I myself, when I was going through this, I learned a lot. How do you feel about today's discussion?
It took me back in time. I've always been interested in fashion, but and I knew most of the styles, but it really took me back, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So one other thing, if I did these presentations as we have been doing them in a jacket, pardon me, a shirt and tie as compared to my casual shirt, would that have made a difference in the presentation? You don't think so? Nope. Let me ask you this question. If you watch the news and you have your news anchors,
Oh, that's a different story.
why is that a
It
different
is.
story?
It
Why?
is.
Ah.
It is.
All right, explain your answer,
Right.
please.
It's a different
No,
story.
tell me why.
But they have to do that.
What do you mean? Why do they have to
No,
do
that's
that?
what that's what
Because
the
they
station-
look.
The station says you have to wear a tie.
Why
and
does the
I
station
don't
say?
know.
You know why? You can come out with
So
it.
they can be more professional.
Thank you very much. It wasn't that hard. So they can look more professional. All right. This is Andy Greenberg,
And
and
I'm Carol.
and we certainly hope that you enjoyed this
And
little
have a
journey
fashionable night.
and enjoy everything. Have fun, keep smiling, and no matter what you're wearing, remember it's you, and we love you for who you are. And we will see you the very, very, very next time. Have a great one. So long.